Hello and welcome to Cooking with Jess. So today we are going to make one of my go-to meals. This is something that my family loves and luckily it doesn't take too long to make. What we're going to make today is something called stewed lentils, or as we call it, lentejas. And we are going to pair that with some arroz con coco, at least my version of arroz con coco. So that translates to coconut rice, which is something that we make in Panama quite often. I do it a little bit different. I use coconut oil instead of coconut milk, so we still get that coconut flavor. Either way, it tastes amazing. And the aromatics from all of these different herbs and spices and the oil is a killer. So, what we're going to do is we're going to start by turning up the stove and we're going to start with the lentejas. That takes a little bit long to make because I like to use dried beans. I'm a huge advocate of trying to cook as with as much fresh ingredients as possible, outside of the herbs and the spices. But definitely when it comes to beans, I like to start from the dried state. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to, after the pot heats up just a little bit, I go in with grapeseed oil. I am a huge fan of grapeseed oil. And then my doctor told me, yeah, you should probably not cook a lot with olive oil. We could talk about that at another time, but I like grapeseed oil because it has a very high heat capacity, I guess. And it doesn't have like a huge aftertaste, but it gets the job done. So a little bit of that. We're going to use some chopped onions. And I went ahead and I chopped up some onions already. So we're going to try to use ingredients and then also, most importantly, the recipe for how much of the measurements. That's what I'm trying to say. How much we're really going to be using. I do a lot of eyeballing, and I know that's not very easy to translate if you have different size pots and spoons and all this wonderful stuff. But I'm just going in with a teaspoon of chopped onions, and I'll show you what it looks like just to kind of give you an idea. So I used three. And I like to coat like the bottom of the pan with the chopped onions. And it's starting to sizzle, so we know it's getting warm. So put that in there. And some tomato paste. This one's a little fancy. It's 100% organic. I don't use organic for everything. Like all of my ingredients don't have to be organic, but I like to use organic based for water based items. Also, if you can, you should try to use, try not to use tin or canned items, especially when it comes to tomatoes because of the acidity level of the tomatoes. So I like to use glass if you could find it. I know that's not usually what people use. And as you can see, I use a knife, and that's just because I can get it down into the container a little bit easily. So much like the chopped onions, I am just trying to cover the bottom of the pan. And we're just going to move this around a little bit while it heats up. And we're trying to saute the onions with the tomato paste so that we can build a little bit onto that flavor. We just don't want to dump a whole bunch of seasoning in. But we want to build and we want to layer. Okay. So this is what we're starting to look like. So I'm just trying to cover just the bottom of my pan. So while that heats up, we're going to add a little bit of sal or salt. Now, I've been told that I can go a little heavy on salt. I don't think that's true, but that's what I'm told. However, I'm just putting again, I'm sprinkling just very lightly over the bottom of the pan, and eventually, what's going to happen is we're going to taste, and then we'll add more if needed, and then we'll probably add a little bit more because usually I need just a little bit more. But at this point, we're just trying to get the tomato paste to separate, and a little bit of oil is coming out. You can see, I don't know if you can see it, but it's turning like a little orangey. You can see the separation from the tomato paste and the onions. So I'm going to let this sit just for a little bit until it starts to sizzle. I am not going to pick it up anymore. And I want to get to the rice. So if we cook these at the same time, more than likely they'll be ready at the same time. So when it comes time for us to eat, everything is ready. It's already warm. We don't have to use the microwave to warm anything up. We'll be good to go. So I'm going to turn this bad boy on too, and we're going to start with the rice. So as I said earlier, I use aceite de coco, or I use coconut oil. This has a lower heating point, so it doesn't have a lower heating point than the grapeseed oil. So I am going to do the same thing. I just want to get enough where I'm able to just coat the bottom of the pan. And it's a little cold here, so it has solidified. But it's okay. It'll melt after we get once the pot heats up, we'll be okay. So I'll leave that on there. It's really cold. Like this is not breaking down. We'll give it some time. Okay, so with this. Guess what? I don't know if you guys can hear it, but the onions are sauteing, and so is the tomato paste. So I'm just gonna give it one little second and let it continue to do that because I want to show you how the oil is separating from the tomato paste. And now we have kind of like a little orange oil at the bottom. And you can see in there. Can you see that orange? It smells good. It smells really, really good. And this is just the beginning. I haven't even added anything yet outside of the salt. So now what I do, I like to go in and I add some of the spices. So first we're going to go in with oregano. Again, we're going to I'll figure out how we're going to measure this besides saying a splash and a dash. But the goal for me usually is to cover a small pan like this. We just want to cover the bottom. And as we taste and we figure out what we need to add, we will add accordingly. Next, we're going to go in with some thyme. Now this, I'm probably using less of the thyme than the oregano, just because I like the oregano flavor a lot more. And then some comino or cumin. See that? Comino or cumin. So we're going to use that. And this is really light. I don't use too much of this. And then lastly, marjoram. I just recently discovered this marjoram and I just think it smells fantastic and it adds so much depth to the flavor. So I'm going to hold there and I just want to make sure that as I'm stirring it up, it's releasing a lot of that flavor from those herbs, and it's getting ready for these lentejas that's about to jump into this party. So again, just coating the bottom of the pan with the lentils. So that's about a half a cup. Okay. I'm just going to stir it up. Try to mix up all the the tomato paste and the onions and all the spices with it. And then I'm going to go in and add some water. So this here is a game changer for me. My brother put me onto this, and it's just heats up the water. So it makes cooking for me just so much easier, especially when I'm making rice or stews or things of that nature. All I have to do is make sure that the water has already boiled, and then by the time we get this on to in the pot or the pan, it just helps to speed up the cooking time just a little faster. So just gonna stir that up, make sure that we get everything nice and mixed in together. And then we're gonna cover it and give it just a little bit of time to blend up together and talk to each other about how their day was and all that fun stuff. Cover it. Boom. Now we're on to the rice. So I can smell the coconut oil. I don't know if you can see. I don't know if you can, but there's like a lot of steam coming out, so we need to move quickly. So I have here organic jasmine rice. I've already rinsed it, and we do not play when it comes to rinsing rice. So I let it drip here, and as you can see, the water is clear, so I know it's ready to cook it. So we put that in there, and we're just going to stir the rice so that the rice has some time with this coconut oil, so it can pick up some of that flavor. Then I go in with some salt, lightly. And I'm just tapping, just making sure that like there's a nice little thin layer of the salt. And then continue to stir and make sure that everything is nice and coated. And this is the easiest way that I've found to make rice. Unfortunately, not a whole bunch of measurements, but I did measure the rice. This is a cup and a half of rice, which I said I rinsed it off and made sure that the water ran clear. And this is a trick that my mother taught me, actually, how to prepare rice so that I don't get that gummy, sticky rice. That is not what we're going for. So I just keep stirring it just so you can hear like little crackling. At that point, that's when I go ahead and I add in the hot water. Now, this is the biggest thing, right? When we add the water without measuring, I want to make sure that we're just covering the rice. And what I mean by that is we don't want to put a whole lot of water into the rice like we're making some kind of pasta, because we're not boiling it. That's not what we're doing. What we're trying to do is steam the rice. So I'm just making sure that I get all of the little rice grains in there. And now that I see that it's covered with water and it's starting to bubble, I don't know if you can hear you hear that, the bubbling? I can see the bubbles. We're going to turn down. So on this, there's the dial goes from 1 to 5, and then there's a max. So I'm going to bring it down to, let's bring it down to 2. And then we're going to cover it, and we're not going to mess with it again. Okay. We'll check it one more time. I'm going to give it, let's say we'll give it about 10 minutes. And because these pots have a clear top, I'm able to see like what's going on with the rice. So that's very helpful. But the goal is we don't want to keep taking the pot top off. We don't want to be a pot watcher. That's not the goal here. However, on this side now with the lentils, they are definitely bubbling and boiling, and they jumping around. We just want to make sure that we keep that water level just above the lentils, because it's a stew, right? So we want to make sure that it's not going to be dry and we don't have any little gravy to go ahead and put over the rice, because that's important. That's part of the flavor. That's part of the meal. At the end of the day, we eat to live. You should eat to live, but it should taste good too. It should taste good. So, and I can feel that the lentils they're still quite stiff. So I'm going to go ahead and drop this down. Right now it's on max. I'm going to drop it down to 4. I don't want I don't want the water to boil away. We definitely want to keep some water in the pot, but we're going to cover it because it's important that we get that steaming effect so that we're able to make sure that the lentils cook evenly and that they're nice and not crunchy, because nobody wants crunchy beans. Unless that's your thing, more power to you, but over here, that's not how we do it. So outside of that, we want to give it a little taste, right? Because we want to make sure that we have all the seasoning that we think we added in. We want to make sure that it's in there. I'm going to grab a clean spoon. And let's see. So first I'm going to go in and taste. This bad boy needs salt. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm trying to be conservative with the salt, right? But I taste nothingness. All I taste is a whole bunch of tomatoes. So we're going to go in and add some more salt. And the salt is definitely going to bring up the flavor, which is what we're going for. We don't want to over season it, but that's how we do over here. We love our food to be seasoned. Not overly seasoned, but we got to taste something. I put in what, four different herbs and spices, and I taste nothing. So instead of us going in and adding in more of the spices, we just add a little bit more salt. Also, what I did not taste was I didn't even taste a hint of salt. It's just very heavily tomatoey. So I think it's safe to add on some more salt. Let's see. Okay, so I'm getting a little salt. I'm getting a little bit of oregano. So what we're gonna do, I think we can add a little bit more of the thyme and the margarine. I mean, not the margarine. Just a little bit. Because I know I'm gonna have to put a whole lot. Let me not say that. That's very dramatic. I'm gonna have to put in more salt. I know that, and I don't want to over salt it. We know that the rice already has salt, so of course we want to be conscious of how we're eating, and we want to be conscious of how much sugar and salt that we're putting in our body. So I don't want to over salt it, but again, we have to have flavor. That's very important. Very important to have the flavor. Okay. So let's go ahead and taste again. Yep, we getting there. We're getting there. Now I'm tasting onions. Yeah, definitely getting there. Okay, so I'm gonna add some more salt, and then we're gonna cover because we need for it to steam and break down some of that harshness and that crunchiness in the beans. I'm able to feel as I'm stirring, like I can feel that it's still hard. It's much softer, but it's not ready. So altogether, this probably takes about 20 minutes, as long as we cook it together at the same time. All right, so I think it's pretty good. We'll be stirring it again. So currently I am at, let's see, we're at level 4 as far as the heat is concerned, and I'm still seeing the bubbles, so that's good. Now, as I look over to the rice, again, since we have these clear tops, I'm able to see what's going on. I can see that there's no more water at the top or just above the rice. So we're gonna go ahead and stir just to make sure we have enough water and we're not burning. Ooh, let me tell you something. When I'm stirring this and just the fluffiness in this rice, you see this? We don't have sticky, gummy. No, sir. We don't do no gummy here. We don't do sticky rice. So we mix all that up. I can tell it probably needs a little bit of water because I'm hearing and I'm seeing that there is, see that rice on the bottom? Can you see that? So just a little bit of rice stuck at the bottom. We don't want that. Just gonna put a little bit more water and then we're gonna allow it to steam, continue to steam. Just a little bit. See that? Boom. That's it. All right. And we're gonna drop it down to 1. Again, we don't want it to burn. We just want to steam it because we don't boil rice, we steam it. All right. And it has picked up a lot of the little bit of rice that was kind of getting hard at the bottom and stuck to the bottom. So we put this back on and we're going to let that cook. And I'm looking over here at these lentils. We bubbling away. We bubbling. So I'm going to give this one more. I just want to taste it and I want to see where we are as far as the level of the lentils. Are we crunchy? Are we softening? What's going on here? So the only way that I'm able to tell is if I taste it. Now I can tell as I'm stirring it, I can tell that it is still hard, right? But it's not as hard. So let's go in and taste some of this liquidy part. Let me tell you something. Okay. I see why sometimes people say I use a lot of salt, but it makes a difference. Now I can taste almost all of the flavors. The only thing I'm not really tasting is the cumin, or at least it's not very distinct for me. But now, listen, yeah, we need salt. Salt is helpful to bring out flavor. So let's see what's going on with the beans themselves. Yeah, these bad boys are crunchy. All right, so we're gonna add, and I'm gonna show you how much. So again, we're just covering the lentils with some of that liquid, right? We want to add just a little bit more, just a little bit, because I want this to run a little bit longer as far as it steaming and breaking down some of the crunchiness in the beans. And I'll show you one more time just how we're not ODing, okay? We're not ODing and putting a whole bunch of water on. I don't know if you can see that, but we're making sure that where the lentils are covered, it's a little bit, it's probably back to where we initially started as far as the water level is concerned. So I'm going to go ahead and cover it. We're still at 4. I'm not going to mess with that. And I'm just going to let it bubble away and do its thing. I think the rice is probably going to be ready pretty soon, but I'm just going to leave that too. And then we'll come back and we'll see how all of this came together. But while that's cooking, there's certain things you can add on to make this like a complete meal. So we're all about living healthy. We're all about eating healthy. So we want to add on another side. We can add broccoli. I usually do chopped spinach because that's the crowd favorite here. So you can make this really simple. You can go to the frozen food section. That is my go-to, especially when I want to do something quick. So you can have that on in the background, some frozen spinach or frozen broccoli. Or if you have the time, you can steam broccoli or whatever vegetable is something that you are fond of and you want to add on. And then that's a complete meal. You got your rice, you have your beans, and then you have your side. And we'll come back and check and see how everything came out. But listen, I already tasted this sauce in the beans and I already know it's going to be magical. We just got to make sure that the beans break down. That's the thing, because they're a little too crunchy and nobody wants that. So yeah, we'll come back and see how everything came out. All right, so it's been about 20 minutes. We're back. Let's see what we got. Ooh. Let me tell you something. It's something about this coconut oil mixed with the jasmine rice, like that aroma. It's serious. But when you make this, you will get to experience it. So we're not gonna make a greedy plate. We're just gonna make a little cutesy plate, okay? All right, so there's our jasmine rice, or Jessica's Arroz con Coco. And the lentil, oh wait, y'all gotta see this. Hold on. Look, you see how it thickened up? Just a little bit. It's not as watery as it was before. The lentils, they have split. Much softer. There's no crunchy sound, none of that. It feels very smooth stirring it. So we're going to go ahead and plate that. Now I like to plate it right on top. Let all that wonderfulness get into the rice. So when you take a bite, tasting everything at once. One scoop, boom, you ain't wasting no time, okay? And like I said it before, you can add on the side some broccoli or green beans or carrots and cabbage. I mean, whatever's your flavor, right? But this right here, let me tell you something. This paired with some kind of vegetable on the side, done. Quick and easy. And you can go do something else, which is what I do. I put it on the stove and I let that sit and go take care of something for about 20 minutes, and then done, there's dinner. So I hope you make this. I hope you enjoy it. I'm not going to do a greedy, let me taste it with the big spoon. Let me get a little taste tester spoon and let's see how it tastes. Because that's what it's about. It's like the light coconut flavor for me. And then all the spices and the herbs and the lentil has. So I hope you make this and you enjoy it. This is the last one. It's good. It's really good. It is. So I hope you enjoy it. And we'll see you on the next one. This is really the last one. Then that's it. Okay.